there's a lot of things that talk about that the ark wasn't real. And the kids get it, but adults get it too. And so basically what we wanted to do was talk about it was absolutely, completely one of those things that work. So what did Noah's Ark look like? Well, if you close your eyes, what would it look like? For a lot of people, it looks like something like this. It's almost a storybook kind of thing. There they are, and they're all standing on the outside. It's if you go back to like the Curry Ives kind of print, it looks like a big old house. Everything, this is what we've got in our mind. And it's almost, you could say, well, that's childish. Well, no, it's not really, because this is what we have in our mind. This is what we think. Usually the giraffe sticking the head out the roof. Well, if you don't think so, look at all of those. The giraffe sticking his head out the roof. And you see pictures in the books and so forth. That's what you see a lot of times. And you see these things. And of course, they got a cute little thing here, the little beaver eating the ark. And sadly, that's the norm in a lot of Christian children's books. We end up looking something like this. And when we allow children to think Noah's Ark looked like, they call them bathtub arks, then basically this is we're putting in some doubt about the Bible. We're reinforcing a false idea that it was just really just a fairy tale. It was just made up and make believe. This is what I heard it described: a happy floating zoo. That's what it was described in one of the books I saw. You have little sets, and that's these little tiny books and a little ramp and so forth. Now, it's cute, but it's dangerous. Now, I thought, okay, there's a lot of people. What's dangerous about it? It's not really a big deal. But one of the things, there's some of the reasons that this is not really good thinking. This is a list of things from the Ark Encounter, but this is what they said. One, it disregards God's word. It makes it look like a fairy tale. Now, there's a word called distortion. That means that everything is right, but they don't put them in the right place. This is a picture that I used in school for math, distortion. If you look at his face, everything's in the right place. Everything's there, ears and nose and all that, but it's not the right features. It's distorted. Well, basically we do this. This is a book from 1922 called The Cruise of the Noah's Ark. One of the reasons I did this with the kids and with us, we think that this only happened in the last 5 or 10 years. They've been making light of the ark for a long time, okay? They've put Jonah on Noah's Ark. There's one slight problem, is there's about 3,000 years difference between the two of them. Now, they'll say, well, they're both in the Bible, they're both in the Old Testament. It doesn't really matter if they're at the same time or not. And see, that's the thing we're doing it. This is a little book from 1900. Well-loved tales. All right, look who's in the book. Snow White. Even got the little mouse there, to tell you about the story. All right. Beauty and the Beast. This is the order in the book. Got the little mouse. Peter Pan. Got the little mouse. Then after Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, and Peter Pan, you know what they have? Noah's Ark. So a kid's reading this book, and look what he reads. The same little mouse that did Peter Pan is talking about Noah's Ark. Now, look at the little picture. Now, the best I counted, the kids helped me out here, there's 13 people in the picture. Well, the verse in Genesis says, you and your sons, your wife, and your son's wife. Well, you could say, well, maybe there's grandchildren they didn't mention. But if you look in 1 Peter, it says 8 people were saved. So they just did this picture where it doesn't fit at all. You can change fairy tales. Snow White and the 6 dwarves, it's just a fairy tale, but you can't change the Bible. God said don't do it. This is in that little book with songs of joy and dances of happiness. They celebrated their return on earth. No, they didn't. Because in the Bible it says they came out of the ark, they built an altar, took animals, and sacrificed. That's what it says, and that's what they really did. They didn't have songs of joy and dances of happiness. Distorting the message, they focus on the little cute animals. They're cute little pictures, Noah saying, maybe I shouldn't have brought the termites. Now over here, there's a woodpecker that's holes in it. They're funny, cute little stories, it's almost like a joke though. There's two little snails. The two little snails are going up to the ark, and he's going, take your time. Water's coming up. We're waiting on the two snails. So there's a cute little thing. I like there the two cheetahs have got in line, and they've already cheated to get on the line. This is a little story that I saw. A delightful tale of smiling animals on a cruise ship. That's how they describe the ark. Sort of like a cruise ship. See, there's the little skunk's private ark. It's cute, it's funny, but basically it takes away from its real. I like this one. Mrs. Noah was upset because the hyenas laughed at her. One of the fleas was lost, but Mrs. Noah located. Since there's only two fleas, so you got to find them, There's old Noah. He's on his cruise, There they are, relaxing. They caught ham fishing in the goldfish bowl. He can't catch them. Are we there yet? We've all been on trips. This is the song, building Arky, Arky out of gopher, Barky, Barky. Well, this is one of the things I told the kids. That is Barky, Barky. On the other hand, that is what you build Arky, Arkies from. You don't build them from Barky, Barky. And we changed the facts to fit the song or the story. Now you could go, well, that's not a big deal. I agree with that, but it kind of builds up to where, is it real or not? This is an old 1920s song. They built it out of hickory bark. Well, barks bark. Animals went in one by same song. Animals went in by one, and then two by two, and then three by three. It's right there in the song. Now, the real ark isn't like this at all. By the way, I did say that somebody made the ark a submarine. It disorients the readers. It uses factual material, but illustrates it with fairy tales. Okay, all right, people were wicked during Noah's lifetime. Noah obeyed. God loved Noah and said, build a big boat. Now, it was 1.5 football fields long. It's a big boat. There's 1.5 football fields. It's a big old boat. This is what they show in the book. Now, I wanted you to see this, all right? Now, down here, God told Noah to build an ark, right? It said Noah followed God's plan, right? Noah built a boat that was 1.5 football fields long. Everything is right in the words. Look at the picture. That's not 1.5 football fields long. So they put the right words, but what do people remember? That. The cutesy little bathtub ark. And yeah, that's deceiving. And what they're doing is they've got the right words even. This can be really confusing to the reader. It can be young or old. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. That doesn't go with that picture. And that was what the picture was. Tell Brother again, I love this picture. I want you to tell me that's going to end up 1.5 football fields long. That's going to be a pretty good sized rowboat. It's a great picture, but it's just not right. They may have good intentions. The examples I showed you were from this thing called Faith Builders in Christ. They're good people. They have kids' corners, but it's still confusing. Veggie Tales. My grandkids love Veggie Tales, but they have the orange slice arc and the cutesy little stuff. I saw this was trunk or treat ideas for this year. All right. Minions, Superman, Candyland, Monsters. Right in the middle of Minions and Superman and Monsters and Candyland, look at what they had as an idea. Let's do an ark. Right there in the middle. So let me ask you a question. It's confusing to a kid especially. Is the ark real, or is it like Minions and Superman and Candyland? It discredits the truth. Fairy tale arcs to mock the truth. This is what it was like. And of course, that's not right. So you know the Bible's not right. This is just one of the things that I saw, an entertaining fairy tale told to amuse children. That was what the ark is about. And look at this ark. Any trouble sealing that hole in the side of that thing? Noah sent out a dove, and when he came back, there was a freshly plucked olive leaf in the NIV. So, of course, when they draw the picture, that's the leaf the dove brings back. Or you want to be cutesy, the dove brought back a pizza to the ark. So, I mean, we're getting into, again, humor. And it's not just for kids. It was IKEA, and it was a kit from IKEA. Let me get this straight. If you hear a voice that said, if you build it, they will come. I like the one on the right. He's arc welding. I'm sorry, I like that one. Check that one out. See the smokestacks and the laundry and again, it's a cute comment, but it's not true. I know he said 2 of each, but I'll tell you, bring back 3 and I'll fire up the grill here and we'll have. I love this one. See the 2 worms? See Noah back there fishing? That's what he did with the 3rd one. Walking the dinosaur. Again, the thing does is it defames God's character. It trivializes judgment. I'm going to destroy the whole earth because of the cruelty and violence. Everything on dry land died. This is sad. This is bad. These are the pictures that you don't see in those storybooks. This is sad stuff. I mean, this is what happened. I mean, there were people who got left out and they died. I mean, this is bad stuff. This is one of the saddest little things. There he is. He's tied to the ark and he's cutting him loose. Now, you never know, but it's sad. And when you do all the little fun and games, it trivializes it. Ultimately, this is God's judgment. Only Noah was left and with him on the ark. It wasn't a fun cruise with some animals. I kind of want you to think about this. It was a lifeboat to save lives from the flood. This is what the ark was, a big lifeboat. And it was a huge, big ship, large dimensions. The water had to be rough because of all these cataclysmic events that were going on. And so sometimes we think of it being this fun little trip. This is the kind of thing that they were seeing, especially in the early days. And these big, huge ideas of what the ark looked like. But again, it had to survive rough waters. You can just imagine what it was like inside. Brother Glenn, when you were on a destroyer, right? When it bounced around, it could make you sick as a dog, couldn't it? Yeah. Well, it was on the ark. And this is the thing we're talking about. It was scary. It had to be scary on the ark. Only an ark of biblical dimensions could survive a flood of biblical proportions. And the cute little arks like that wouldn't have survived. So let's talk about what happened. We need to show children, and we need to show us that it was a real ship, a great ship. It was a big ship. Now, this is the size of the real ark. I just wanted you to use a size. This is the person, that's the ark. This is not what we showed you all ago. It had to be seaworthy to survive a flood. So what does the Bible say about the ark? Well, this is the King James. Now, for a lot of kids, for a lot of folks, this is a little daunting. So let's look at it real quick, each thing. An ark. It's only used twice in the Bible, this word for ark. Make an ark of gopher wood. That's the one that Noah had. It's also the one that hid Moses. And so there's mom putting him in the ark. And then, of course, Pharaoh's daughter getting Moses out of the ark. It's not the same Hebrew word as the Ark of the Covenant. So those are totally different things. Both of them mean a box or a container. The Ark of the Covenant was used on land. The ark for Noah and Moses was on water. And the word was related to house. it meant the ark was boxy and square. Now, this is the USS Zumwalt. It's sleek. It's supposed to be, your radar can't detect it. That's not the ark. It was boxy and square. It wasn't meant to be fast. It was meant to hold a lot of stuff. This is one down in Texas, same shape. And so it was a big boxy square. All right, make it out of gopher wood. All right, gopher wood has nothing to do with gophers. And you go, well, I knew that. Well, did you? I don't mean that bad, but I never thought about it. It's only used once in the Bible, and we really don't know exactly what gopher wood is. Many Bible translations say it was cypress. Old translations say it was cedar. If you go to the Septuagint from the Hebrew to the Greek, it talks about it was squared timber. The Latin Vulgate says it was smooth wood. So it possibly looks something like this. Rooms shalt thou make. May not be what we think of as rooms, because those rooms could have been stalls, pens, coops, nests, cages, compartments for the animals and the people, to house every kind of creature from great to small. Pitch it within and without with pitch. Pitch has nothing to do with baseball. That's Greg Maddux, in case I like him. Pitch can also be called bitumen or tar, or in the King James, slime. She took an ark, Moses, and daubed it with slime and with pitch. It made it waterproof. This is an antique native pitch-covered basket to make it waterproof. And down at the bottom left, that's pitch or tar. It comes out of the ground. The little bubbles are natural gas, and that's pitch and tar that happens, if you read in Genesis 14, around the Dead Sea. This is pitch or tar that can be made from trees, like a rosin. Which one, we don't know. It doesn't. Both of them works both ways. You use it to waterproof. This is a boat in Vietnam. That's another boat that you put tar on. Pitch it within and pitch it with pitch. Does it work? Yeah. The Vikings, their success was a good coat of tar. And their waterproof boats raided a whole continent. And there's tar on the bottom of a boat. And you tarred it like this. These are people who were tarring a boat on the left and a building on the right. Cover it with tar. That's what the modern translation would say. And so this is a picture of a kid's book, but this is a very accurate picture of what you would have done with the ark. And you would have painted it with this tar, with pitch. All right, so make an ark of gopher wood, put rooms in it, pitch it with pitch. Or make a boat, put rooms in it, and cover it with tar. The length, 300 cubits, 50 cubits, 30 cubits. So what's a cubit? Well, it's a body-based unit of measure. Now, this is a foot. Now, they didn't come out as 12 inches. It came as the length of the ruler's foot. Now, a hand was used to measure how tall horses are. A hand span. Now, these are, oh, by the way, an adult's thumb, man's thumb is supposedly about an inch wide, in case you need kind of a handy guide. Everybody has that body part. It's readily accessible. So if you can measure something, you can go, all right, I remember it's that many hand spans wide. But there's a difference among people. This is a guy that wears size 26 shoes. His feet are 16 inches long. The lady down there is 2 feet tall, literally. I saw her picture. So look at his feet and her feet. Now, they're both feet. The thing is, one is really big and one is really small. This guy's hand, that's a basketball on the right, a real basketball. Now, that's his wife's hand. One's really big, one's really small. So that's the problem with body-based measurements. So what's a cubit? Its cubitum is elbow. So it goes from elbow to the longest finger. We call it 18 inches. So if you do a little math, that's where you get the 450 feet and the 75 feet wide and the 45 feet high. On the other hand, If you take your measurements like this, there's also what they call a royal cubit. A royal cubit is longer. Now, by the way, it has nothing to do with kings. It has to do with measuring buildings and land and I suppose government things. Some think the ark was measured in royal cubit, which would have made it even bigger. So if you do, again, your math here, you end up with the ark being over 500 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 51 feet high. It's big. This is things you can compare it to. 1.5 football fields. Or if you look down at the bottom, there's a football field, so it's just about goes to midfield. So this is a large vessel. This is a soccer field, and you compare the ark. Take 2 space shuttles, and you could put them on top of the ark, end to end. That's how big it is. I like to have something I can put in my mind. This is the SpaceX Starship. That was for the kids. It's not as long as the ark. This is 2 Airbus A380s. That if you put them the right way, they'll hold 853 people each. And they can go nose to nose, and it would be the length of the ark. So this is the size of the ark. It's huge. This is the Titanic. There's the ark. Talking about 2/3 the size of the Titanic. By the way, this is the Santa Maria. So there's the ark behind it. There's the Santa Maria that came across with Columbus. That's how big it is. This is a Carnival cruise ship, twice as long as the ark. On the other hand, it's half as long as a cruise ship, which means, again, the size. But what about, I told the kids, I want you to realize there are going to be people who try to shoot down your faith. Believe you, they will be. The USS Wyoming is the same length as the ark. It's a wooden ship, and it sank. So people go, see, it didn't work. But I want you to know some facts behind it. Remember this. It carried coal for 14 years. It carried 13 million pounds of coal in every voyage. 13 million pounds of coal. And I double, triple checked this number. It carried it for 14 years. It was anchored off the shore to ride out a storm called a nor'easter, and that's a nor'easter hitting the coast of New England, and it sank off the coast. Now, it carried millions of pounds of coal for over 14 years and sank in a terrible storm. The ark had to float for less than a year. Now, it was definitely doable. So if you hear the USS Wyoming argument that it couldn't have floated, oh, yes, it could have. Definitely. It was big. If you build it with a 18-inch cubit, it's 11 buses long. That appealed to me. Yeah, 11 buses long. That's pretty good size, isn't it?
It's a little bit big.
Yes, it is. And if you use the royal cubit, it's almost 13 buses long.
Why?
Now, it's 8 buses wide. Or if you use the bigger cubit, it's over 9 buses wide. Just line them up, 9 wide. Or you could put them nose to nose, and they're 2 wide. So again, we want you to just be amazed at the size. 3 giraffes high. I don't know why. That just appealed to me. So if you pile them up 3 high, that's how high it is. This is how big the ark would have been. So look at the people and look at the ark. It's big. Displacement of a ship is its weight. 22,000 tons. That is the same as this particular little cruise ship right here that's 459 feet long. Or this is a cruiser from the late 40s and early 50s, because the USS Salem. Almost the exact same displacement they think that the ark had. It was big. On the other hand, I want you to know that there are people who are going to throw these things at you. There is a flood told about in a story called Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a king. His story was turned into a myth. Now, over here is Israel. This is a map. This is over in modern-day Iraq. He lived in Sumer. So he was a king. a very famous king called Gilgamesh. Now, the flood is this myth that's in the story that's told about him. Make it really simple. The gods got together. They're going to destroy the whole earth. But they warned this one guy, told him to build a big boat. Sound familiar? So they'll say, you know, that said to build a boat. They called it the preserver of life. And basically, in simple terms, build a boat, seek living beings, keep them alive, and then have all of them go up into the boat. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? 6 days and 7 nights came the wind and the flood, and they flattened the land. Sounds familiar. It really does. He sent out a dove after it landed, sent out a raven, and then he sent all the animals out. And it does sound familiar. On the other hand, remember the story was turned into a myth. Let me tell you a story about this guy that we're basing the story on. He was told of a plant that says you can live forever. All you got to do is get it off the bottom of the ocean. So he tied big rocks on his feet. He walked around on the bottom of the ocean. Do you see any difficulty there? He found the plant, but he brought it up to the top. But before he could use it, this magical plant was eaten by a serpent. So now, in simple terms, my mama always said, when somebody said, so-and-so said something, consider the source. So is this going to be your source? Gilgamesh, the guy that puts rocks on his feet, walks around the bottom of the ocean looking for plants. So this is what you're basing it on. All right, let's take another look. The flood, the ark up there, see the square box? That was the ark that Gilgamesh talked about compared to the one that Noah had. 7 floors high. Oh, and they only built a 7-floor ark in 7 days. No problem. Now, think about a big, giant square box, 200 feet high, 200 feet long, and 200 feet wide, floating around in a storm. All right, the ark itself. The ark is much wider than it is high. This guy's a naval architect. He said a 240-mile-an-hour wind wouldn't tip over the ark. And that is Category 5 hurricane winds. It was very stable. It would survive a wave 100 feet high. Now, it had a ratio, and I'm not going to get all sciencey here, but 30-5-3. So this guy built a big old ship called the Great Britain, and he used the exact same ratio, 30-5-3, and that's what he had. So if you'll disregard the sails, the rest of the ship is almost exactly the ratio of Noah's Ark. Liberty ships had almost the exact same ratio in World War II. Now, they were very seaworthy, and they basically could survive, especially if they were welded upright. And then they carried a lot of cargo, which is the job of the ark. Now, think about a cube. Can you think of a worse design for a ship? It would roll over at just the slightest disturbance. So if you can imagine floating around with that. Now, as I asked the kids, guess how many ships in the world have been designed and built according to those dimensions? No examples have ever been built using those plans. Well, let me show you one more. This is a more recent thing. This is a guy named Irving Finkel found this tablet, and he says it had a plan for an ark. And basically what it was based on this ship in Asia called a coracle. They use it in Asia and Southern Europe. And basically it made a giant coracle. Now, he built a sample. This was 2 stories high. Those walls were 20 feet high. It's about 20% the real size. And he built it according to the plan, supposedly. Now, this is what it was supposed to look like according to the plan. Now, 38,750 square feet does not mean anything to me. But it was going to be about 80 yards of football field room. which looks like a lot of room. On the other hand, this is how much room the ark has. 1 football field, 2 football fields, and depending on which cubit, part of a third. So tremendous amount more room. So let's compare. The ark was stable, couldn't be tipped over, the 240-mile-an-hour winds, the 100-foot wave. They tested this prototype in still water. This is what it looks like. It doesn't look like it would survive the storm, the waves that we talked about. And in still water, it developed leaks. And the guy said he doubts the full-size version would have been seaworthy. The ark, on the other hand, was seaworthy. Now, the stern should resist being pushed, so it kept it going straight. Now, you also don't want to turn side on into the waves, because I don't like this boat's chance because they got sideways into the wave, or this one got sideways. The ship would sink, or probably would sink. This projection on the front could have prevented by keeping the ship turned into the waves. Did that cruise ship sink? Nope. Sure didn't. I want you to kind of look at the different things. These huge waves, and none of these ships sank because they're going into the waves. So if you had something on the front, like this ship down on the right, that would keep it turned into the waves to survive the waves, it might have looked like that they've put on some of the ark reproductions. And so this is the one that I think is in, I forgot where. There's 3 or 4 full-size arks in the world. The ark was designed for 4 things: seaworthiness, strength, stability, and safety. The ark provided all of that. So what does the Bible say about the animals on the ark? How many of each animal went into the ark? You know this one. 2. Well, that's true. God said to Noah, bring 2 of all living creatures. On the other hand, it's also not true, because he said take 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal. But why? After the flood, remember, Noah worshiped, and it says take some of the clean animals and sacrifice. So time for some ark math. I told Dan, you can be a Noah at all. Sorry, I like that. If you have 2 of every kind and you sacrifice them, there won't be any left. So that's why there had to be 7 pairs, because some people are going, no, it's 2. It has to be more of the clean animals. Most experts go from 8 to 16,000 animals on the ark. Now, this is one of the ways. Not every breed of every animal went. So you don't have hundreds of different kinds of dogs. You would have just a few representative. What does it say about the people on the ark? God said to Noah, you and your sons and your wife and your son's wives with you. 8 in all were saved according to 1 Peter. So Noah came out of the ark, his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives were with him. This is out of the ark encounter. One of the things that they'll say is they tried to make it to where that they had a human face. They're not trying to say that this is real or not, but they're real. Right? He's handsome, isn't he? This is trying to make it real. And I have no problem with that, as long as people know this is not their picture. But he is trying to make plans. He had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They're building an ark. This is a big job. This is not like the picture we showed you. These are just some pictures I found of building the ark. So this is a large job. It took years.
You had to cut the tree down and take the
They had to do. You're exactly right. Yes, absolutely. And so they had this. And so all of these pictures were of these huge, big things. The wives are not mentioned. The names are not in the Bible. Now, there are some traditional names. They're not considered part of the Bible. This is one of the traditional books, and it names the wives. The Ark Encounter says it can help their real people, and I agree with that. I think that this is. In Book of Jubilees, her name was Imzara. And so this could have been somebody like her. They were real people. And so this was Noah and Mrs. Noah. So Diane, can you change over to the next one? So what we're going to do is to tell you, I kind of made up, if they put the family's pictures up on the wall, they named a city after their wife, so according to it. So what we'll do is we'll skip on over and start the second part. It's about the inside of the ark.